Track number 6 is a song called Architect of Suffering, probably the darkest sounding song on the album.
I tried to use a lot of black metal chord progressions, like just sharp notes, kind of eerie like dissection. I always have that in my head when I write that style.
There's some fast, thrashy parts in the verse. There's also a very cool mid-paced, kind of anthemic sounding chorus.
That jam riff in the middle, that was heavily inspired by Dechristianized Vital Remains, where it gets really melodic and slow in the center of it. I always wanted to do something like that when I heard that.
This song drives real hard. It's just got a real good, heavy vibe to it. It's got a lot of sweet open spaces throughout the song that kind of change the pace up a little bit, but overall it slams pretty hard.
The outro on this song is especially awesome. There's some really beautiful sounding string arrangements that were performed by our session cellist, Cacophonix.
I always like when bands, they get to the end of the song and you're used to what it sounds like, and then they hit you with a totally different riff at the end. I always think that's cool. You like kind of ride the song out in a new area.
The lyrics are told from Death's perspective, and how the more someone suffers when they die, the more pain they experience, the more enjoyable it is for Death to take their life. There's sort of a sadomasochistic symbolism between pleasure and pain. I took a lot of inspiration from Clive Barker's Hellraiser. That's always been a big favorite of mine. In fact, the chorus on this song is a paraphrased quote from the fourth Hellraiser movie, Bloodline, where Pinhead says something about humanity only concerning themselves with the light instead of the untold darkness.
Inglorious is a sweet song. It's the second instrumental on the album. It's pretty sweet.
Inglorious is another forever lost song. It was originally untitled, I believe. The first instrumental that Derek and I ever wrote together over 15 years ago.
It was an instrumental. It's always been an instrumental. We never had vocals to it. I never wanted vocals to it. Me and Cessna recorded on my dad's Tascam 4-track cassette in the basement. We would add layers to it. So it's been around forever.
It's got a very marchy sound, kind of triumphant sounding song.
I think a war march, It's got a lot of snare work in it. Dun, 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 dun. It's got a big open ringing chords.
I mean, it sounds like you're marching to war. It's an anticipation to battle or anything like that.
I think for an instrumental, it does a really good job at telling a story without any lyrics.
The main inspiration, Eyster of 1776, Gates of Ishtar and Nana, like every melodic band has that 4/4 marching instrumental track.
I think the real standout part in this song is when the outro comes in. The outro to this song it's got a lot of cool feeling to it. The cellos kick ass, there's a melody going on. It's just it's like the song finally comes together in the end.
The title suggests an ambiguous future for mankind. The Obliterators starts with this epic intro before kind of taking off full throttle into this speed attack.
It's fast, it's thrashy, it seriously kicks some ass.
Some really ripping guitar parts, especially the middle sections, just relentless.
Comes out guns a-blazing, it's faster than hell.
It had some black metal parts to it, but Paul hates black metal. He says it's sloppy as fuck, so we took all those parts out.
Derek and I both have some early influence in thrash metal, though we never really write that style of music together. So it's kind of cool to tap into that a bit more on this song.
I think this is like the heaviest outro on the album. It kind of has this little bridge in the music, and then it just slams you to the ground for the rest of the song.
It wasn't intended for 3 people to solo, but in the studio, Reynolds laid his down, I laid mine down, and we're like, now what the fuck do? We just handed the guitar off to Paulie. Here, fucking play it, dude.
I remember being very drunk, and we just played it over and over again until we got something.
You hear 3 different flavors in the middle section.
It came together really well. You can definitely hear our 3 distinct styles of solo playing coming out in that song.
The song is about a dystopian future where machines rule the earth and they're hunting down the last few survivors of humanity. Not an entirely original concept in science fiction, obviously inspired by The Terminator and The Matrix. But more primarily for me, this movie from the late 90s called Virus, starring Jamie Lee Curtis. I really like the idea of machine life forms trying to turn humanity into cyborg slaves. The title track, Eternity's End, is the longest, most epic song on the album.
Eternity's End was chosen to be the title track of this album because the song is longer than hell and it never ends. It just keeps going forever and it is, fuck man.
I don't know if this one was always intended to be as long as it is, but I had Cessna talking to me, dude, we need a long song, bro. So I just kept making it longer. You bring out the chord at the end of a riff, and it leaves you a different spot to come in again, you know?
It was a very ambitious undertaking for us to write a song this long.
It's got the epicness, it's got the shred, it's got the melody, it's got everything you can ask for in an epic song.
So it's like 5 mini songs in one.
For us, it was difficult to make a song that long and keep it interesting the whole time. But I think we did that.
It really sums up the album. It's got some heavy parts. It's got some sick blast beats. It's got all the melodies that you can handle. It's got solos, it's got acoustics. It's kind of like wrapping up the album on a super strong note.
We always like the idea of the big opuses, the Rhyme of Ancient Mariner, or Dante's Inferno. We want to do something like that to kind of end the album on a really epic journey.
That reminds me a lot of Opeth Morning Rise. They did the same thing. You thought the song was over and it just kept going and kept going.
The story concludes with the main character viewing his immortality as a prison. He's thousands of years old. He's watching as the world perishes around him slowly over the years. He's the last living thing in existence, and the only thing he has left are his memories, which are also starting to fade away. The album closes with another instrumental piece called Reflections. It's sort of a reprise of sorts. It highlights different moments throughout the album.
And I really like that it wraps up the album. It's like a medley of all the major riffs throughout the whole thing.
Largely inspired by the acoustic medley from Black Ash Inheritance by In Flames.
Gothenburg inspired.
That was always an important piece to us.
We originally had a lot of orchestration or strings, whatever you want to call it, added to it. I don't know, it just took away from the melancholy of it.
They wanted to keep it super minimalistic, which is sweet, you know. There's very minimal drums, there's very minimal orchestral stuff going on in the background.
I just think all the extra elements kind of wrecked what I was going for, and we decided to keep it simple.
Derek, he nailed that son of a bitch.
The final song is a bonus track cover song. It's our rendition of Hell Patrol.
The bonus track, Hell Patrol, Judas Priest.
For whatever reason, the death metal vocals on this song really made it sound nasty.
We've been listening to that album for years. We're just huge fans.
I mean, Death covered Painkiller. I mean, enough said there. We all loved that album. We jammed it way back in the day.
Judas Priest is sweeter than hell, so
I just thought it'd be a fun song to play.
It'd be part of the Metal Bible if there was one.
this is one song where I did the solo on.
I handed the guitar off to Paul. For one, I think it suited his style. Whether I'm too lazy to learn the damn thing or not, we'll leave that for interpretation.
It's not the fastest solo I've ever played. There's a lot of cool, like, little bluesy riffs in there.
But he pulled it off. I can't argue with it.
I think it turned out pretty well. Kind of put my own little spin on it.